We drove with our Hyundai Ioniq 2019 model from Oslo, Norway to Linz on the Rhine in Germany with two small children, and in this short video I want to share some of our experiences. For the trip you basically need 2 full days. So on the first day we drove from Oslo to Göteborg, which is about 300 kilometers. Then we took the Stena Line ferry from Göteborg to Kiel overnight, which is about 400 kilometers at sea, where we obviously didn't need to drive. And then on the second day we drove from Kiel to Linz on the Rhine, which is about 600 kilometers. For the charging we selected the Ionity chargers, not because they are the cheapest, but because they are most reliable. There are usually 4 chargers in one spot, so if one of them is not working we can just select another one. And if you travel with small children you don't want to get stuck if suddenly the battery is empty. So that's why I rather selected the Ionity chargers than other chargers that might be a little bit cheaper. On the first day we plan to have 2 charging stops in Sweden, one just behind the Norwegian border and the second one a bit before Göteborg. And on the second day we plan to have 4 charging stops from Kiel to Linz on the Rhine. We are now here in Strömstad at a Circle K station where there are 4 Ionity chargers. So far the border crossing from Norway to Sweden went perfectly fine. There was actually nobody, so we could just drive in. And now we made our first of 2 stops here to charge on the way to Göteborg. One challenge was that the highway suddenly was closed for a little bit, and we were a bit anxious that this fuel station might also have closed, so that would have been a problem, but it was open. So it basically meant we were slightly delayed because we had to drive a little detour to get here. Car charged fine with about 66 kilowatts speed, and we charged it full all the way to 94% because we need every energy that we can take in, because we never know what might happen. So far so good. So the next leg will go to Stora Höga a little bit before Göteborg. So second charging stop here in Speckere, somewhere I think 44 kilometers before Gothenburg. So the distance between the last stop and this one was about 120 kilometers. And then I had to watch my daughter, who started running around at the fuel station. Shortly after we arrived at the ferry terminal in Göteborg. Yeah, for you, yeah. So we arrived now in Göteborg after 2 charging stops, but we were actually way too early, so we found a McDonald's that also had a charger and charged there to 94% again, so the battery is almost full. The weather was perfect, so the consumption was I think 13.5 kilowatt hours, and we drove 110 kilometers per hour all the time. So fantastic value. There was even a little bit of rain in between, and that was a little bit before Göteborg, and there was almost no traffic, of course. A lot of trucks that are still transporting the goods, but other than that very few private cars. Only when we came closer to Göteborg, since it's a big city, there was some traffic and a lot of private cars, and check-in here into the ferry was also great. It looks like there are very few people, which is nice. And now we are going to Kiel. So this is our second charging stop at Ostertal Nord. So far the trip went very well. It was easy to get into Germany. There was just the federal border police who only talked to us. We didn't even have to show the passports. And the roads are free, only a short traffic jam, but nothing serious. And we are soon already done here, charged to 94%, and now we will have a very long leg of 143 kilometers without charging, so we will see how that goes. So we will drive a bit careful. But first we take a little stop here, and now you have to bring the face mask when you go into the resting areas. So that is a bit new to me, and at the last stop at the McDonald's I even had to register my name and address when I went to the toilet there for this infection control. But yeah, so far so good. Very nice weather, 20 degrees, sunshine, and it is very hot. So we have now arrived at Dammerberge West, our third of 4 charging stops. Very good location here of these Ionity chargers. They're actually new, so they were just put into operation I think in March, so basically before the coronavirus started. But unfortunately the resting area behind, I'm not sure whether you can see it over there, there are actually very good restaurants there and the playground. This is unfortunately closed, and even there's a fuel station far down there below. There's also a little shop, but it doesn't look too good to be honest. That being said, the leg here was really good, 143 kilometers from the last stop, and I drove 120 automatic, or with the automatic cruise control, and everything worked fine. We arrived with now I don't really remember exactly, with about 40 kilometers, like let's say 20% battery here, so everything perfectly fine. So even if the weather had been a bit worse, I think it would be possible, not in winter though, but really good. So now I think the plan is to go to the next and the last charger, and we will not stay here longer than we had planned. So that's, I think, the best thing we can do. It's a bit like when you fly, eat when you can, sleep when you can. In the corona times here it's more like eat when you can, so we were lucky that we found a McDonald's earlier today. Last charging stop was in Lichtendorf Nord, where we again charged to 94% and then drove the last 136 kilometers towards Linz on the Rhine. We arrived very well here in Germany, and the charging and the whole trip went absolutely fine. All the chargers were working, and what is really nice with the car, that although it has a small battery, that it charges really fast. So in practice it was basically full after about 20, sometimes 25 minutes, and the children actually needed more time to recharge than the car. And this worked very well. So I think even if we had a car with a bigger battery, we would have to make the same amount of stops, maybe one less if we were lucky, but in total this didn't really matter. The driving conditions were also really good because it was 20 degrees and mainly sunshine, not really rain. On the first day the consumption was 13.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometer. That was the way from Oslo to Göteborg. And on the second day from Kiel to Linz on the Rhine, the consumption was funnily even lower, 13.4 kilowatt hours, although it's only highway. And of course I played it a bit safe. We drove only 120 kilometers per hour with the automatic cruise control, and in practice this means that you actually have an average speed of much lower than 120 kilometers per hour, because there were some traffic jams here and there, a lot of road works where you cannot drive so far. So overall the consumption was really low. And even on these legs that were, let's say, 143 kilometers in one go, there was 20% battery left when we arrived. So plenty of reserves in case we would have to go to another charger. So this worked like really fine, was also comfortable driving, no back pain or anything. And only the trunk is a little bit small, so we could have had a bigger trunk. That would have been better to bring more things, but it went really fine, and it was actually a fun trip. So I can really recommend this to anyone who wants to try to go on a bit of a longer trip and plan the charging stops beforehand.